Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. We tell people doing with that chapter in regards to leaving wudu from the touching of the dead. That just as when you touch the slaughtered meat and you're cleaning it, doesn't break your wudu. Likewise, when you touch a dead animal, right, your wudu doesn't break. There's no ikhtilaf there among the imam, right? What we call a حدثنا عبد الله بن مسعود قال حدث سليمان يعني ابن بلال عن جعفر عن ابي عن جابر رجل انه وسلم مر بالسوق داخلا من بعد الآلية والناس كنفتيه فمر بجد أسك ميت فتناوله فأخذ بأذنه ثم قال أيكم يحب أن هذا له وساق الحديث. From Jabir Nabi passed by a bazaar coming from part of Awali, right? And the people were on both of his sides. And he passed by a dead small goat, right? Which had small ears. Then he took it. Then he took its ears. Then he said, which of you wish that this will be for him? And then he continued the hadith, right? So we see this particular hadith here, right? You look at it, Ja'far, and Ja'far and Abihi, right? So who's the Ja'far? Is it Ja'far Sadiq, right? And his father's name was Muhammad, and his laqab, and his title was Baqir, and he was the son of Ali bin Hussein, who was known as Imam Zainul Abidin, right? And he was the son of Hussein bin Ali, radiallahu anhu. You got it now? So it's Ja'far bin Muhammad Baqir bin Ali bin Hussein, Imam Zaidul Abidin, bin Hussein bin Ali. You understand? So these are all great. There's a great lineage. You understand? Right, coming to Hazrat Hussein radiallahu anhu. Right. So he passed by the bazaar entering from parts of Awali. Right, Aliyah. Aliyah is the singular of Awali. Awali is a area in Medina which is to the eastern side of Medina. Right. And then the hadith now, obviously, that hadith is obviously it's elsewhere in the kitab. At the end there, he says, فَوَاللَّهِ لَلدُّنْيَا أَهْوَنُ عَلَى اللَّهِ مِنْ هَذَا عَلَيْكُمْ. That this dead goat here, with the small ears that Nabi Sallallahu was holding, is saying that the dunya is more little in the eyes of Allah than this dead goat even. You understand? Because nobody would obviously, who wants that? They say no, nobody would want it even for 1 dirham. For nothing the people would want that, such a dead goat. Understand? Because it's useless, small dead goat. So Nabi Akram says that dunya is even lower in the eyes of Allah Ta'ala than this here. So jadjun here, jadjun, what does jadjun mean? Jadjun means the kid goat, right? And asakin, it refers to it has a meaning no ears. It also means cut off ears, or it means ears which are attached. You understand? It's like flat on the head, and but here what it means is that small ears. Babun fi tarkil wudui mimma mastatin nar. Chapter in leaving out wudu from those things which the fire touch. In other words, if you eat something cooked on the fire, then as you make wudu or not, then obviously this headline shows you that you don't have to make wudu. Now what you see here now, Musannif Rahman got Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. It's got Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Right. So most of the commentators don't mention anything. However, the possible meaning is that when they were dividing Abu Dawud into portions, right? Then they divided into 32 portions. So it's possible that now after a portion they wrote Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Otherwise, there's no other explanation for it, right? Yeah, some Sahaba and Tabi'in, like Abu Huraira, Zayd bin Sabit, Abdullah bin Umar, Umar bin Abdul Aziz, Ibn Shihab Zohri, Hassan Basri, and others who say that you have to make wuzu when you eat cooked stuff. Right? Imam Nawawi Rahmullah says that after the first era, right, then that ikhtilaf is now completely evaporated, and now all the ulama are unanimous that you don't have to make wuzu. Right. However, if you ponder deeply, as this commentator mentions here, you will see that Imam Abu Dawud Rahmatullah alayhi, he is not what Jamhur on this one, and he seems to be also of the opinion that you must make wuzu after you eat cooked stuff, right? And therefore he brought the next bab being Babu Tashdidi fi zalika, right? So in the first bab he's showing you that you don't have to make. In the next bab he's showing you that you have to make, right? So this bab is showing now that you had a second bab, right? So it's as though he's making nas of the nas, the abrogation of the abrogation, uh, which means there was a twice abrogation of this particular masla. And the ulama have mentioned that there are some masail where uh, abrogation has been made twice, right? And according to Mahmud Dawud, that is also the masla. In other words, first you couldn't make, you had to make wuzu. Then you didn't have to make wuzu, according to Mahmud Dawud. First you had to make wuzu if you eat cook stuff. Then it became abrogated, right? Then you didn't have to make wuzu. Then again, that masla became so now you have to make wuzu. That's Imam Abu Dawud. Most probably that's his opinion, right? And some of the masail that were like this was the qibla. The qibla was abrogated, then abrogated again, right? And then mut'ah nikah, right? So haram, it was haram, mut'ah nikah was haram, made permissible, then haram again, right? The flesh of the domesticated donkey, that's also went through that sequence, right? Right. وبه قال حدثنا وبه قال حدثنا عبد الله بن مسلم قال حدثنا مالك بن زيد بن اسلم عن عطاء بن يسار بن عباس ان رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم أكل كتف شاة ثم يصلي ولم يتوضأ. And from Ibn Abbas, Nabi ate the shoulder of the goat, then he made salah, he made wudu. وبه قال حدثنا مالك بن شيبة ومحمد بن سليم عن الأنباري والمعنى. قال حدثنا وكيل عن مسأل عن أبي صخرة جامع بن شداد بن المغيرة بن عبد الله عن المغيرة بن شعبة قال ضفت النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم ذات ليلة فأمر بجنب بجنب فشوي وأخذ الشفرة ويجعل يجز لي بها منه قال فجاء بلال فآذنه بالصلاة قال فألقى الشفرة قال ما له تربت يداه وقام يصلي وزاد الأنباري وكان شاربي وفاء فقصه لي على سواك أو أقصه لك على سواك. Right. Right, so there's two Ustad, Usman ibn Shaykh, Muhammad ibn Sulaiman al-Ambari, and they both make a hadith which has similar meaning, right? Then they take the riwayat right after Mughir ibn Shuba. So Mughir ibn Shuba is saying that I went to visit Nabi Akram one night, then he ordered for the flank, right? Then it was roasted, then and he took the knife, then he began cutting for me for what it, right? He said then Bilal came and he informed him with the salah. So he threw down the knife and he said, "What's his matter? Taribat yadahu," right? Uh, and then he stood up making it to make salah. And Ambariyu adds to his hadith now, the one who started ended it. And my mustache was full, right? Then he cut it for me upon a miswak, or he said, I will cut it for you upon a miswak. Right. So this hadith says, Diftun Nabiya, I visited Nabiya Kareem Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, right? In Tirmizi it is mentioned, Diftu Ma'an Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, where he and Nabi Akram was the guest at someone else's house, right? Then he said that Nabi Karim Samia took the knife. And from this we understand that to cut the meat with the knife is permissible. There's another hadith in Abu Dawud in Kitab al-At'ima which is لا تقطعوا اللحم بالسكين. Do not cut the meat with the knife. So these hadiths clash with one another. So the answer to this is that the hadith in Kitab al-At'ima, that hadith is weak. In fact, Ibn Jawzi says it is from the mawdu'ah, right? Fabricated. And if you understand this to be correct, this hadith, then this prohibition of cutting the knife will be when you cut with the knife, right? And then you put it directly into your mouth from the knife. You understand it? So that is dangerous. You understand it? So that's when the prohibition refers to. For the other reason of cutting, you're allowed to cut with a knife when you need to cut with a knife. If there's no need, then just to be like the high class now, you eat with a knife and fork like that, you cut with a knife for every small thing, you cutting with a knife there. Use your hands, you understand it? Right. Taribat yadahu. So this word actually is a warning. It's more like a warning. It's not the actual meaning is not intended. What's the actual meaning? Uh, it's a dua of poverty and disgrace. But that meaning is not intended here. Right. So here we find that Nabi Karim Sallallahu also was ready to cut his miswak for him and with cut his mustache for him with a miswak. In other words, using the miswak as a leveler and then you cut the, you understand? Uh, so from this hadith we understand that the host should see to all the needs of the as far as possible of the guests, right? And make his khidmat. And here Nabi Karim showed us that how you actually, to what extent you can go to make the khidmat of the guests. وفي قال حدثنا مسلم قال حدثنا ابو الاحوص قال حدثنا سماك عن إكرمة بن عباس رضي الله عنه قال اقرا رسول الله كتفا ثم مسح يده بمسح كانت تحته ثم قام فصلى. Right. Now Ibn Abbas in Nabi at the shoulder, then he wiped his hands with a cloth that was underneath him, then he stood up and he recited Salah. وفي قال حدثنا حفص بن عمر النمري قال حدثنا امام عن قتادة بن يحيى بن يعمر عن ابن عباس رضي الله عنه النبي صلى انتهس من كتفه ثم صلى ولم يتوضا. Right from Ibn Abbas, the Nabi he broke with his feet from the shoulder, right? So intahasa means you break with the front part, with your front teeth, right? There is also you also pull meat from a big piece of meat. You like how you eat biltong, you understand it? With your front teeth, you pull it, right? Um, then he recited Salah and he didn't make wuzu, right? أبي قال حدثنا إبراهيم بن الحسن الخشاعي قال حدثنا جابر قال ابن جريج أخبرني محمد بن المنكدري قال سمعت جابر بن عبد الله يقول قربت للنبي صلى الله عليه وسلم خبزا ولحما فأكل ثم دعا بوضوء فتودى به ثم صلى الظهر ثم دعا بفضل طعام فأكل ثم قام إلى الصلاة ولم يتوضأ. Right, Jabir ibn Abdullah saying that I presented to Nabi Akbar bread and meat. Then he ate, then he called for wuzu water, then he made wuzu. Then he recited Zohar, then he called for a surplus of his food. Then he ate, then he stood up for Salah and he didn't make wuzu. So all these hadiths are showing you that that you don't have to make wuzu after it. وبيقول حدثنا موسى بن سهل أبو عمران الرملي قال حدثنا علي بن عياش قال حدثنا شعيب بن أبي حمزة عن محمد بن المنكدري عن جابر قال كان آخر الأمرين من رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم تلك الوضوء مما غيرت النار. قال أبو داود هذا اختصار من الحديث الأول. Right. Narrated from Jabir Radhiyallahu said the last of the two matters from Rasul was to leave wuzu from those things which the fire changed. Right. Imam Buddha say this is a shortened version of the first hadith. So this wording here now of Imam Buddha this clearly shows that he is of the opinion that that you have to make wuzu after you eat cooked stuff. And the reason being, and that's why he said this is a shortened version of the first hadith. In other words, he's saying that this hadith here is what has Jabir said, this is the last of the two matters. It's actually part of all those hadiths which was in the time when Nabi Karim when it was abrogated, where you are allowed not to make wuzu on cooked food, right? So Imam Buddha is showing here that there was a nas that still took place. They say, although this is the statement of Jabir radiallahu anhu, right? He's saying, but this statement here is actually a portion of the previous hadiths, which shows that you are allowed. So in other words, after the statement of the Jabir radiallahu anhu, the abrogation took place again. This is what he's saying, right? However, Jumhur say no, right? This hadith of Jabir is a separate hadith, and it's a clear indication that the prohibition, or rather the necessity of making wudu after eating cooked food, has been abrogated, as Jamhur says. Right. وبيقول حدثنا أحمد بن عمرو بن سرح قال حدثنا عبد الملك بن أبي كريم قال ابن سرح من خيار المسلمين قال حدثني عبيد بن ثمامة المرادي قال قدم علينا مصر عبد الله بن الحارث بن جزء من أصحاب رسول الله فسمعته يحدث في مسجد مصر قال قد رأيتني سابع سبعة أو سادس ستة مع رسول الله في دار رجل فمر بلال فناداه بالصلاة فخرجنا فمررنا برجل وغرمته على النار فقال له رسول الله أصابت غربتك قال نعم بأبي أنت وأمي فتناول منها بضعة ولم يزل يعلكها حتى أحرم بالصلاة وأنا أنظر إليه. Right. So here you got Ahmad ibn Amr al-Sar, right? And he says, narrated from Abdul Malik ibn Abi Karimata, right? And this Ustad, my Ustad here, saying, Ibn Sar saying that this grand Ustad, this Ustad of his, Abdul Malik ibn Abi Karimata, was from the choices of Muslim, a great person, right? And then they go right in, and now he comes right here. Ubayd ibn Sumal Muradi, he says that Abdullah ibn al-Haris ibn Jaz, so a Sahabi, this Sahabi came to them in Egypt, right? Then I heard him narrating in the masjid of Egypt, right? And he said, I saw myself in the seventh of the seventh, or sixth of the sixth. What Nabi in the house of a man, right? When Bilal radiallahu anhu passed by, then he called for salah. So Nabi came out. Then we passed by a man, and his pot was on the fire. So Nabi said, is your pot ready? So he said, yes, Abi anta wa ummi, right? My mother and father will sacrifice for you. So Nabi Akram took from it a piece of meat, right? And he continued chewing it until he made ihram for salah, and I was looking at him. You got that now? And I was looking at him. I was looking at him. In other words, I saw this. I was looking towards him. I saw this incident with my own eyes. He's telling now, obviously, I know quite later now, the Sahabi came, and now he's in Egypt here now. He's giving the exact explanation of how he was there present. So he's one is mean that so the one meaning is that I saw this whole incident myself, right? And the other meaning is that as though I'm now looking at this incident, as though I'm now looking at this incident, right? باب التشديد في ذلك. The chapter in the severity in that, right? Uh, so this shows here that Musannif Rahmatullah alayhi, by bringing this bab here, he was of the opinion that you need to make wuzu after you eat cooked stuff. And likewise, uh, he was also of the opinion that you have to make wuzu after you eat camel meat. Right. وبي قال حدثنا مسدد قال حدثني يحيى عن شعبة قال حدثني أبو بكر بن حفص عن الغري عن أبي هريرة رضي الله عنه الوضوء مما أنضجت النار. Right. Abu Hurairah Nabi says, wudu is from that which the fire cooks. Right. وبه قال حدثنا مسلم بن ابراهيم قال حدثنا ابان ان يحيى يعني ابن ابي كثير عن ابي سلمة ان ابا سفيان بن سعيد بن المغيرة حدثه أنه دخل على أم حبيبة فسقته قدحا من سويق فدعا بماء فمضمض قالت يا ابن أخي يا ابن أختي ألا تودع أن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قال تودعوا مما غيرت النار أو قال مما مست النار وقال أبو داود في حديث الزهري يا ابن أخي narrated from that Abu Sufyan bin Sa'id bin Mughira narrated that he ended up on Habiba. Then she gave him to drink a cup of sawiq, right? And then he called for water, then he made a cup in his mouth. She said, "Oh, son of my sister, will you not make wuzu?" Nabi Akram says, "Make wuzu from that which the fire changes," or he said, "From that which the fire touched." Imam Buddha Rahman says, in the hadith of Zuhri, it is Ibn Akhi. Right. So, firstly, here is just that Abu Sufyan bin Sa'id, right? He went to Habiba, who was the wife, the daughter of Abu Sufyan, who was the wife of Nabi Karim Sallallahu, right? So that was his maternal aunt, right? So Musannif Rahmullah is saying here that in the that there are two people as narrating this riwayat, right? Yahya ibn Abi Kasir and Zuhri. In the riwayat of Yahya ibn Kasir, uh, he Habiba said, Yabna Ukhti, oh the son of my sister. And in Zuhri's riwayat, he says, Yabna Akhi. You understand it? So he's showing that two there, the difference. And both could be correct because Yabna Ukhti will be Hakikatan, right? And Yabna Akhi is always a majazan, oh son of my brother. That you normally call that to any person. You understand it? Right? Just as the youngster will say, oh uncle. So the elderly man will say to the youngster, Yabna Akhi. You understand? Although not Hakikatan, they're not the brother, nephews. Right. So this hadith here shows that you have to make wuzu after you eat something that the fire has touched. Right. Babul wuzu'i min al-labani. The chapter of wuzu from milk. Right. After drinking milk, Aimai Arba and Jamur Ulma say it is mustahab, right, to wash your mouth. You understand? To wash your mouth because milk has a bit of stickiness in it. You understand? Especially not our milk, those milk, especially of those days, right? Because they used to drink it from the while it was still in original form, right? Imam Ahmad, there's one riwayat from him. He says you have to make wuzu, right? Right. That's where the hadith is. Yeah. وبيقول حديث القريب بيقول حديث ليس عن نقيل عن الزهري عن عبيد الله بن عبد الله بن يبان عن ابن عباس رضي الله عنه النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم شرب لبنا فدعا بماء فتمضمض ثم قال إن له دسما. Right, Abdullah ibn Abbas, the Nabi Sallam drank milk and he called for water and then he gargled and then he said indeed there is a stickiness for it. There is a stickiness for it. Right. Babu Rukhsati fi dhalika. The chapter of uh, allowance in that, right? What the hadith shows here now, the spreading, that you don't even have to gargle your mouth. You understand? You don't even have to gargle your mouth. فبيقول حديث عثمان بن ابي شيبه عن زيد بن حباب عن مطيع بن راشد عن توبه العنبري انه سمع انس بن مالك يقول ان الرسول صلى الله عليه وسلم شرب لبن فلم يمضمض ولم يتودع وصلى. قال زيد دلني شعبة على هذا الشيخ. Right. From ayat and Ibn Malik saying that Nabi Karim Susam drank milk and he didn't gargle his mouth, he didn't make wuzu, and he recited Salah. Zayd says, Shu'ba indicated upon me the Sheikh here. Who's the Sheikh? Mutu ibn Rashid. So if you look at it, Zayd ibn Hubab and Muti ibn Rashid. So Zayd ibn Hubab is saying that Shu'ba has pointed this Sheikh Muti ibn Rashid to me, meaning that he is a reliable and a good person and a thiqa rawi.